Okay. Take 4. Thank you, Michelle. I could not see your comments before, but I can see your comments now. Thank you, Michelle, for your comment. I think you're exactly right. I think the name of this live triggered some Facebook. We'll just call them notifications. So what I will say is that today's topic is about when you feel like you might want to close your business. I'm starting all the way over. For those of you who've been on for all 4 of these takes, my apologies. But I'm going to start over because I can't tell that any of these lives have gone through other than the last one. So thank you, Michelle. My apologies for repeating, but I think that's the best bet at this point. Let's see how it goes. Today is about whether or not, today is about when you're seriously considering closing your business. We'll just call it that. So I've got a couple of announcements. Number 1, we changed the name of the group. I feel that I started this group like 3 years ago, and I just felt like it was time for a little refresh to represent who we are, what we're doing, all that good stuff. So I hope that resonates with you. Let me know. I'd love to know your thoughts. I'm not completely married to it, but it feels like a much better match and resonance for me in terms of the work that I do, in terms of the group that this is. This has always been a group of people who love the work that they do. And I think that it represents more of the work that I do now as I've evolved in the last 3 years, really the last 5 years in business, that I'm really big on following your fulfillment and letting that lead the way to things like a greater impact and greater profit. I truly think that's the way to run a heart-centered business. And a lot of times we get wrapped up in things like the way we think we should do it, or let me do the thing that I think is going to make me the most money. And when you focus on that as your driver, as your only motivation, money is important. Money is amazing. I'm all about money mindset stuff, all of those things. And when that is your only driver and you're not also feeling fulfilled and you're not also focusing on and setting clear intentions around the impact that you want to make on your clients, your customers, the world, your audience, then I don't think you have to run your business the other way. I think we get to run our business this way, this day and age, and we can do it from a space of following our fulfillment, following what lights us up, because it's important to have that feedback loop, not just to change the world in the way that only you can and put your zone of genius out there, but to receive something back in the form of joy and fulfillment and, just geeking out because you're working in your zone of genius. So we are rebelliously, and I think that being fulfilled or striving for a fulfillment or following your fulfillment as you go, and that's one of the things we're going to be talking about today, is like the evolution of your fulfillment in your work. I think the act of doing that, frankly, is quite rebellious. That's what I think. So let me know what you think about the name of the group, the new name. Welcome to those of you who are new. There's been a bunch of people joining us recently. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You can sell here, you can learn here, you can connect here, you can create clients here. This is a group of really lovely people who love what they do. So have fun. So I want to quickly make an announcement, because I'm starting an interview series next week, and I want to really make sure that I share this with you guys so that you can set aside time on your calendar if you want to watch live or catch the replays. Starting next week at this time, next week's live, I'm going to hijack it a little bit, and we're going to do an interview instead of me talking at you. So we're interviewing one of my favorite people who has gone through a recent pivot in her business. And so this interview series, let me back up. This interview series is called Pivot Chats. And this is, for me, I've been joking, this is going to be kind of like a pretend podcast. I've been joking that it's a pretend podcast, but truthfully, I'm walking my talk. I always talk to you guys about, like experimenting and trying something in some small way or a hybrid-y kind of approach before you go and do the big thing, as a means to sort of fast track it. And so rather than going through all of the work and effort, because starting a podcast is a really, I think, to do it the way that I would want to do it, it would take a lot of time and effort, and a restructuring of my team that I love, that I don't want to touch. And so while I think there's a real possibility of this becoming a podcast in the new year, I didn't really want to wait. And I really want to have these conversations now. And so what I'm doing is I'm creating an interview series. We're going to do video. We're going to record a Zoom conversation with me and one other person. It'll be here in the group live so that you guys can watch it. I hope that you'll come live and ask questions, because I think that's where some of the richness of the conversation can just be taken to a whole nother level. I really sat and thought about whether we would record it or do it live. And while I may record some of them, I've already got the first 4 scheduled, and they are all going to be live. So join me for Pivot Chats. We're going to talk real, raw conversations about not just what it's like to go through a pivot or a big transition in your business and your work. And I also want to start kind of calling these creative pivots, because I think so much of this is about the creative process. As you grow and evolve as a person, your work is going to grow and evolve too. And naturally, you're going to have pivots along the way. Even if you do the exact same thing forever and ever and ever, from now on in your business, it's gonna tweak and change. I'm sorry to tell you, it's not gonna be a copy paste. And if it is a copy paste, no judgment here, but you're probably not learning and growing. I think most people, I do hold space for the outliers, but I do think that most people who are attracted to entrepreneurship are attracted to being a creator, are attracted to creativity, are attracted to the evolution of something. And so, just like an artist doesn't paint one painting and go, ta-da, okay, I'm a magical artist and I'm famous and everybody pay me and I'm done. Like, no, they want to keep going. They want to keep creating. And I think your business is a work of art. My business is a work of art. And it's going to grow and evolve over time. And so that's what these Pivot Chats are about, is about how things grow and evolve over time. Because as Steve Jobs said, you can't connect the dots going forward. You don't always know where the hell you're going when you're in the middle of a pivot or transition. Sometimes you do, but a lot of times you don't exactly know where you're going. And you can only connect the dots going backwards. Oh, okay, when I look back in hindsight, now I see the progression of how I got from here to here to here to here, and that's what I brought together in this, second pivot of my business or whatever it is. So we're going to be interviewing people who've gone through pivots to share the real and raw truth and story about what that looks like. And thank you in advance to my amazing 4 people who've already committed, and I've got a whole bunch of people that are interested in sharing their stories as well. So it's going to be magical. But we're also, by the way, going to be having conversations with people who are smack dab in the middle of it. And I'm even more grateful for those people for jumping in here and being vulnerable and sharing the mess, really, like the confusion of the mess. And I do want to have these conversations because I really want to normalize. I want to use this interview series, no matter what it becomes. It will hopefully impact you guys. And I want to use this interview series to start to normalize the experience of going through a creative pivot, going through a transition in your business, and what that really is like. And we'll start to notice, I think, over the interview series, like some really common themes and threads, and maybe you won't feel so alone when you're going through your next one. Okay, so join me for Pivot Chats starting next week. I will continue to go live at this time every week, like I always do. Sometimes those lives will be my regular lives like this. Sometimes those lives will be our Pivot Chats. So number 1, come and join us. Number 2, share with friends, family, colleagues, business besties, your team, whoever it is that you think might want to hear these messages. Anybody who's going through a pivot in particular. And number 3, if you're interested in being an interviewee, if you're interested in telling your story, it's a great opportunity. I personally think that people are going to get some aha moments even as an interviewee, because there's something about telling your story when someone's asking you questions where you start to go, oh, I never thought about it like this before. So I won't be exactly coaching people. It's definitely going to be more of an interview style, but it's going to be conversational. And I think the person being interviewed will learn. I know the audience is going to learn. I know I'm going to learn. And it's an opportunity for the interviewee to promote their business and to share what it is that they're doing, and how you can work with them or how you can follow them and support their business, right? You can support a business by just going through and engaging with them on social media on a regular basis, or connecting with them one-on-one and talking and getting to know one another. There's lots of business to be had in just conversations and referrals. So it's a great opportunity to promote your business in a whole different way. So if you're interested, I will post a link here in the comments. Hopefully this live will stay in the group. And I'll post a link where you can apply to join this interview series. And you may end up doing it by the time it's a podcast. You may end up doing it here in the interview series. We'll see how it goes. I will say, I've had a lot of people interested. So I'm really enjoying having these conversations. And that's one of the things that inspired this topic today. And I will get to that in a second, but just because I've had a lot of interest, I am already noticing, right? I've been helping people pivot and transition for really, really my whole career, but definitely this whole business, the last 5 years of being a coach. And there are a lot of commonalities, and that's part of the point. But what I don't want to do is interview somebody that has a similar story to the person from the next week. So I really am curating the progression and the order of the interviews based on people's availability, but also based on the content and what they're talking about. So I do have a lot of people interested, but that doesn't mean that you couldn't come and join sooner rather than later, because if your story is a little bit different, then I'm more likely to book you in sooner. So all that is to say, the slots are not filled. The first 4 slots, I wanted to fill 4 slots this year. I've already filled all 4 slots, but there's more space. And because people are so interested, I think I'll probably do more than 4. If you're interested, I will pop the link here in the comments afterwards. The other thing I want to share is I'm offering a free, I'm offering a single coaching session. Somebody mentioned to me the other day that this has gotten a little bit lost in the shuffle in all of my sort of shifts in the social media that we've been doing here at LL Coaching. I do have a single session available. That's not something I've offered really before ever. I've done it in some sort of weird way and fashion, but I'm really kind of jazzed about just sitting down and talking to somebody and letting them get an opportunity to work with me one-on-one for one session. Normally my programs are 3 months or a 6-month commitment. And I think that most pivots and transitions in particular, and real true transformational change, especially in business, happens over, obviously a lot longer than a single session. But there are so many times when a single session really changes the trajectory of a person's business and frankly life, and definitely mindset. And I'm really interested in being able to serve more people to have a broader impact. And because I have a one-on-one coaching model, there's only so much me that can be. So I've opened up these slots on my calendar for you guys if you're interested. So I'll put the link there in the chat in the comments as well. Okay. Back to our conversation of today that I'm not going to announce because I don't want Facebook to kick me off. Who's had, if you're live or on the replay, who's ever had, if you're listening, you probably have, a very serious thought about closing down your business? And sometimes, I think a lot of times what I hear people say is, I want to close it down and start something different. And I think a lot of times, we could just argue a little bit, split hairs around, are you really actually closing it down and starting something different? Or are you just making a major pivot? And it almost doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you call it, right? Does not matter what you call it. And I think it's really important to honor the experience that you're going through as the business owner. This is why we're doing pivot chats. This is why we're talking about what it's like to go through a transition in your business. in these interview series, because very often the end result is a mild shift, change, adjustment from the perspective of your audience, from this perspective of the people who are following you, your clients, your warm, pipeline. Oftentimes these end result, which is what everybody's driving towards quickly, right? But pivots are creative processes. Sometimes the end result is actually not a close down, start over. It's just a shift, a pivot. I know a lot of speaking coaches. So let's say you're a speaking coach and you work with women as entrepreneurs in, growing a speaking, putting a signature speech together. Okay, let's just say that. And then maybe you decide you also want to work with women in corporate who are delivering speeches. That might be, for your audience, that's a mild impact, right? Like now you're not just speaking to entrepreneurs, but you're also speaking to people in corporate, right? So your messaging might change, right? And the way that you craft your content might change, and the way you create your next event or your next marketing opportunity, it's probably going to be a little bit different, or you may decide to target both in different ways, right? So that might change. But as far as your current clients are concerned, as far as the people who've been thinking about working with you, as far as the entrepreneurs that are in your warm pipeline that are maybe going to be coached by you in the future, like that makes no impact to them, right? And yet it's a massive change for you on the inside. And it might take you a year to get to that point. It might take you 3 days to get to that point. You could go through a massive up-leveling in the process. You could go through a little tweak and shift. Like a lot of times it feels so much bigger to us because we're the person running the business. And because this is our creative outlet, this is our life's work, and we take it really fucking seriously, and we should. But going through that creative process is, part of entrepreneurship. Not sorry, because it's why I have a job and I love it. And I think that's how we grow and evolve as people. And sometimes we grow and evolve as we're going through that transition. Oftentimes we grow and evolve before that transition. And then the transition or the pivot is sort of the tangible outcome of that growth, and all of the above. It's definitely not linear. But if you've ever had that thought of like, maybe I should really shut it down. Number one, I see you and you're not alone. I have had these thoughts before. I think every one of my clients has had these thoughts before. Over 5 years, all of my clients, probably every single one, has had this thought. And again, I don't mean it from the perspective of, just one day I want to quit and it's just about, self-sabotage, but kind of reevaluating what it is that you do and offer, and decide, putting on the table, like, is this what I still want to do? And again, sometimes it's just a matter of, what do I want to do next year? Do I want to keep doing this? Like, it can be light and simple like that. It can just be, this has been great. I've accomplished a lot. That's what a lot of people are doing Q4, right? I'm looking ahead to 2023. What do I want to do in 2023? What do I want my business to look like? I remember doing that actually at the beginning of, I think it was 2021. It was quarter one maybe, and I had just finished a group coaching program and I was launching another one, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this again right now. I'm kind of missing one-on-one, and I ultimately, that was sort of the first thought that shifted for me around going back to one-on-one coaching. A one-on-one coaching model, which I've had for the vast majority of my 5 years in business, is a one-on-one model, because it feels good to me, and I think that's what I'm best at. So I stopped doing groups. Never say never, but I stopped doing groups. And yet that concept of like, is this still what I want to do? It can just be that, right? It doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be upsetting. For many people, it's just that. I'm looking ahead. what do I want to do? Do I want to keep doing this exactly the way I've been doing it? Do I want to make a little tweak? Do I want to add a little something like a podcast or a book? It's not a little something. Add something big like a podcast or a book. Or do I want to add a little something like space in my calendar for one more client, whatever it is? Or do I want to make a big change? Like, do I still want to do this? But I think most people, the people that I talk to, and maybe that's because I'm a coach and they tend to hire a coach when they're looking for, when they're more in the depths of a more dramatic change. But I think most people, when this thought comes across their mind, it's not just once, it's not just twice, it's over and over and over again. And that may just be over and over and over again in the period of a week or two. It doesn't have to be a 1 year long transition. But I think once people start to have that question of, do I still want to do this? Do I want to close this down? And they notice themselves asking that question over and over, or not even asking, like, oh, like kind of fantasizing, like, what would I do if I just closed my business down? I wouldn't have to force myself to write a social media post every week. That's what a lot of people tell me, right? I wouldn't have to get on a sales call. A lot of people don't like sales. I wouldn't have to manage my team. I hear that a lot, right? What would feel lighter? So no judge. So again, if you're having these thoughts, if you've ever had these thoughts, you're not alone. That's what this Pivot series is going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about it more and more because I've gotten more and more clear over this year, that's what I'm really enjoying helping people through are these types of transitions. So if you're interested in working together, hop on a free call with me and we can talk about what that might look like. So as we look at that concept of putting it on the table, that's kind of how I've been always said it to myself, is like, there are moments where I've made shifts in my business and transitions that felt really big, and never once in that transition did I think about quitting. And quitting isn't quitting, let's be honest. But never once in that transition did I say, it's on the table to stop coaching, right? But I've had conversations with clients over and over and over again, and I've had moments too where I really did take it and put that on the table for consideration. I've been in business 5 years and I'm still a coach. So obviously I always took it off the table and said, nope, that was decided. I'm going to keep being a coach. I still like being a coach. But if you've never asked yourself this question, it can actually be a really positive, powerful exercise, because I think sometimes we don't let ourselves, when you put that on the table, I have two real sort of things I want you to think about. When you put that on the table for consideration, all that does, especially if you're not already naturally having it and feeling like you're already in a pivot, all that does is put you in a space, I'm just making sure I'm still live. All that does is put you in a space where you can open your mind to different possibilities, even if, and especially if, you decide against those possibilities. But sometimes when we need to think bigger, I think that's a big piece of what I do with my clients, for my clients. It's what my business coach does for me, is to help you think bigger, help you think differently about what you could do, accomplish, or how it could be easier, or how it could be more fun. When you put that on the table, it actually opens up possibilities that you never might have seen otherwise. And I'll give you a silly example, but I live in Roatan, Honduras. I live on a little island off the coast of the mainland. And when I moved here, I had literally no plan, and I've moved a lot, and I'm pretty adventurous, and I love to travel. But I was living in San Francisco. I had been there for 5 years at that time, by that point in time. And I had absolutely no plans to leave San Francisco. I was super happy there. Never even remotely on my radar was moving. I mean, maybe not never, but it just was not on my radar for any time soon. If you had asked me at that point in time, I would have said, I'll be here at least a few more years. That's what I would have said. And yet, when I came down here and fell in love with the place, I put leaving San Francisco, I had to, I put leaving San Francisco on the table. It was never on the table for consideration. I put it on the table for consideration, and my brain instantly went bigger. And I didn't even really look at Roatan in terms of a place to live yet. First, I just said, well, if I'm going to move there, that means by default that I'm going to first leave San Francisco. That's not something I wanted to do. What am I going to do with this? So then I really sat and thought about, what would it mean if I left San Francisco? What might I do if I ever left San Francisco? And it caused me to open up my mind to, oh yeah, at this point I was in business for 2 years. And I had started the business with the intention of, once I make a certain amount of money, I want to be back and forth between the States and some TBD international location. I've always wanted to travel. I've always wanted to live abroad. So just even though this concept of moving here made a lot of sense, to me in that sense, I was really happy in San Francisco. I didn't want to go anywhere. But when I put on the table and just started thinking of the question of what would happen if I did leave San Francisco, when you put something like that on the table, other possibilities open up. I went, oh yeah, I forgot. I really, really do want to travel. And I've spent the last 2 years building this business. And at that point in time, I didn't really have the money to live in the most expensive city in the country and travel. I didn't have the money yet. And so moving to Central America was the money, I was saving money by moving there. So that factor was completely off the table, and I really had not thought about that because I wasn't willing, yes, I've always lived in big cities and expensive places, and that was just the way that it was, and I wasn't willing to sacrifice that to save money. But this was like one of those, well, if I left San Francisco, anywhere I went would be cheaper. Okay, money's now a different factor. And I went through friendships, relationships, travel, what I'm doing for myself, how often I get back to my family in North Carolina. And what happened was my mind blew open to, oh, leaving San Francisco actually doesn't scare the crap out of me. It could be positive, even though I love it so much. Right? So can you see how that is really and honestly no different than putting your business that you might love so much or might not anymore? And if you're not having fun anymore, please hop on a free call with me. I don't mean everything needs to be fun, but if you used to love your work and you're not anymore, the pivot is call in. And that's okay, and it's natural and normal. But you're probably not giving your business the attention that it needs in exactly the way that it needs it so that it can grow and expand. So I said this was a blasphemous conversation in my posts about this. Be blasphemous. Be fucking bold and put on the table what it would look like if you stopped doing your business. Or if you want to have a lighter conversation because you're 100% clear that right now you're not in a transition and you love the crap out of your work, awesome. Put it on the table to say, what would it look like if I had even more fun in my business? Or what would it look like if I just opened my mind to running my business a little bit differently? And see what happens. The other way that I like to ask this question of myself, and I've asked myself this same question for many, many years. Oh my gosh, I'm getting chills. I want to say in my early 20s, when I had my first few corporate jobs and I would get a job and learn some stuff and be there for a year or two and then just feel stunted in my growth and I don't think I want to be here anymore. And several times in my 20s, I would leave a job without having another one because it's a full-time job to look for a job, let's be honest. And and back then, for me, at least in that moment, I didn't feel like I could effectively have a job search that would feel good and expansive to me while I was still in a role in a place that wasn't serving me and I already knew it, right? It's kind of like, I'm going to keep this relationship, this boyfriend, this girlfriend, until I find another one. Like sometimes that's just not fair. Sometimes it's totally appropriate, but sometimes that's not fair. I don't know that it's necessarily appropriate in a relationship, but whatever, depends on what your rules are. All to be said, I think I'm going on a tangent, but this is a very long time, 20 plus years that I've been asking myself this question, and it has served me over and over and over and over and over again. And I've asked my clients this question. So ask yourself, every time I ask myself this question, I sing the Bare Naked Ladies song in the back of my mind. I'm probably dating myself, but if I had millions and millions of dollars, what would I do with my business? If I had millions and millions of dollars, what would I do with my business? And for me, that really helps. When you put that on the table for consideration, that takes the money off. That takes I think for most people, it takes a lot of the shoulds away and the have tos and I have to run my business this way. Because if I had not just $1 million, because I might still run my business a certain way, I'd like to have more than $1 million, in retirement or whatever. So I always say millions and millions and millions. So make whatever number amount that you want. But when you think about it from that perspective, and that means that whatever comes next, you're not going to drive it by scarcity, right? You're not going to be driven by what you think people are going to buy, what you think is possible, right? Because if you had millions and millions of dollars, to be honest with you, I'd probably start a bunch of businesses and see what happens, right? I would go creative fire. I really would. Where are my ADHD friends? I would have so much fun in that creative space. And I would bring friends along the way because I don't want to start another business by myself. I had so much fun building this one by myself, but my future businesses, I think, are going to be all collaborations. And so I really would. I would go start, playing around in other businesses while also, by the way, coaching. I've asked myself this on a regular basis, and I am 100% committed to continuing to be a coach as I grow and evolve, at least at this point in the game. And so that's what I would do, right? But then when I ask myself that question, well, okay, then is there a way that I could do that now? Yeah, I think running a podcast, if I do that, is kind of like running a business. I'm starting a second business with someone else. I'll get to that next year when we have something to share. But all that is to say, when you ask yourself that question, some of the rules of reality start to go out the window, and that's what really kills creativity. That's really what kills the answer to so many people say to me, when they're in their pivots and their transitions, I don't know what I want to do next. And sometimes the opportunity to close your business down only in your mind, just for a minute, be that blasphemous, be that bold, can open up opportunities in your brain that because you were sort of, it's just sort of the only way that you were looking at it, right? It allows you to think differently. Same with the millions and millions of dollars thing. If you are and have been seriously talking about burning your business down, let me say that differently so I don't get slammed. Closing your business down, I want to honor you in that because I don't think that there is one way to run a business. So that means there's no one way to be an entrepreneur. And if we follow this process, this conversation that we've been having around being an entrepreneur as a creative process, which it is, right? Then it stands to reason, I feel like a lawyer, but it stands to reason that sometimes you're going to start a business and run that business until you die. And sometimes you're going to start a business and close it and start another one and close it and do some other creative project and then move on to the next one, right? There's so much noise, I think, in the online space around business growth and constant evolution and constant expansion and growth. And that's huge and that's important. And that's what I'm here for myself. That's what I'm here for my clients. Don't get me wrong. But I have absolutely helped multiple people close their businesses down and move into whatever's next for them. Closing your business is not a failure. Closing your business is simply a choice. You can judge it if you want, but honestly, I think for most people, when they make the decision to close their businesses, And I have seen this with all of my clients that I've helped close businesses, I didn't help them close it. I supported them in that process, in that decision-making process. It was 100% the right choice for them. And so it's really more congratulations. Have you ever told somebody who's getting a divorce, like, congratulations? I'm not going to pretend I've never been through divorce. I don't know, but I have lots of friends, family members, and clients who have gone through divorce. And it can be totally hard. Don't get me wrong. But a lot of people I've had really honest conversations with about their divorce. Many people have said to me, when they finally get to the day where the papers are signed and it's just the officiality of the close, that it's something to celebrate. It's the end of a chapter and it's time for new beginnings. And frankly, most people have new beginnings well before that final paper is signed, right? And most people, I think, who close their businesses in favor of doing something, it's always in favor of doing something else, whether it's going back to corporate, whether it's being a mom, whether it's being retired, whether it's starting another business, whether it's going into acting. I don't know. You're usually doing it and planning to do something else instead. I think it should be a celebration. And that's why I feel like this is a blasphemous conversation to say, like, I'm a business coach and I want you to close your business down. I actually don't. I don't want you to close your business down. But what I want you to do more than anything is love your life. And then secondly, love your work. And full permission, if you need to borrow mine until you create your own, like, full permission to just run your fucking life and business the way that you want, in the way that serves you best. And everything else will follow. The answer to what's the next step, the way to monetize whatever the thing is you want to do next, or simply the way to take what you've got and figure out what to keep. And that's half the time the conversations I have with my clients is, we're going to keep some element of this and we're going to let go of some stuff. So trying to figure out what goes on what list is sometimes the hardest part, but can also be the most liberating when you realize that you can free yourself from the stuff that's not serving you, as opposed to forcing yourself into the have-tos, into the got-tos, into the shoulds. Yes, this is not about, making excuses and not paying taxes and not following up on sales calls and things like that. That's not what this is about. This is about really honoring yourself, really honoring your creative process, and honoring your ability, frankly, to know what's right for you at any given time and to know what's right for your business. I believe we have the answers inside of us. That's my approach to coaching, is that I help you make good decisions for yourself and for your business. I don't make decisions for my clients. I don't advise. I do tell them my thoughts, and you can talk about, like, what that looks like. I for sure give people my opinion, and I will push them to think bigger, to think differently, to be accountable to the big visions that they've set or to the other decisions that they've made. But I know that everybody has inside them the power and the ability to make this your own. And I'm really good at helping you see kind of where you can keep stuff, where you can let go of stuff. So I just really want to honor those of you who are having these thoughts. I don't know if it's because it's already the last quarter of the year, or if it's because I keep talking to people about pivots, but this conversation has been happening for me on repeat. And so I have a lot to share about what it means when you're having these thoughts, these serious thoughts about closing your business down. This is not my own one and only live about it. I just wanted to open up the conversation, and I especially want to open up the conversation to those of you who are in that space right now. Number one, I'm available to you if you want to hop on a free call and just talk about what your experience is, and then we can see where that takes us. It might take you to be an interviewee on my pre-podcast series. It could take you to working with me, or it could just take you to a little bit further along in your thought process, and I'm open to all of that. So if you're in that space, number one, you're not alone. Number two, you will find resources and support from me, from this group, from the interview series, and from my future content. This is going to be a topic that I'm going to be talking about a lot. And I just think it's really, really, really important. Okay. let me just double check and make sure there's no questions. I don't know who's joining me for this. I still can't see. Oh, what a pain. You guys, okay, so if for nothing else, because of all the tech issues, I'll be coming back in and talking about this again. But again, this is just the beginning. I just want to start opening this conversation up. And if you are having the thought process around closing your business down, next week is the first interview, and it's around a pretty significant pivot in terms of, I don't want to give too much away, but Allison's coming in. She's an intuitive. She's amazing. And she's going to be sharing what it's been like for her to go from the primary work and service that she offered in the beginning of her business and still does. And it's the thing she's known for. And she's really sort of like taking that and putting it to we'll just call it a lower level priority. And she's really focusing on doing a different kind of work. And so I know many of you have gone through pivots where you started doing one thing and you didn't ever stop doing the thing, but you really shifted your focus to something else, even if it's related. There's still something about that first love and the thing that got you to start your business. I had that when I started my business as a hypnotherapist. I still have it's my first love. I don't really use it in my work anymore traditionally, but I still use all the training. I still use all the understanding of, the subconscious mind, all of that in my work, but it's just not a focus anymore. And people keep asking me to record meditations for them, and I just haven't been drawn to do it. I'm not saying I won't, but again, I still have that first love. So the first episode, it's going to be about that first love transition. And then the second episode is about a person who has very publicly closed her business down and started another one. Actually, she had two running parallel for quite some time and ultimately decided that she just wanted to run one. And the one is the thing that brings her the most joy right now. And so we're going to have those are the first two, that's enough, but we're going to have some real candid conversations about what it's like to close a business, what it means, what people are going to tell you and say to you, and how to just navigate all of that. We're going to just get to as much of that as we can. So please join me. I can't wait for that. Starting next week, the next 2 weeks in a row will be interviews. So join me for that. Share with your friends. If you have questions, if you want to be interviewed, if you want to work with me, all of the above, I'll put the links in the chat. Okay, thanks guys. Have a great day.